Steve Peplin, welcome to Succession Stories. I'm super excited to have you on today. I invited you onto the show because you are an entrepreneur and an adventurer. They kind of go hand in hand. Your bio is fascinating. Your bio includes logger, roughneck, cowboy, vertical construction worker, sailor. I know there's other things there too. You've got unicycler, hot air balloonist. I think you see life as an adventure, and I'm guessing you also see business that way. So I'm interested in speaking with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Laurie. This is exciting. We've been called by one of the local industrial organizations their poster child for business unusual. I think they meant it as a left-handed compliment that we were very progressive and innovative.
So tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. What's your origin story, as they say?
I've never had a job. Almost. I've been a rep, an independent rep, which is, independent. But I have technically had a job when I was in high school. When I was young, I had jobs. But ever since a grown-up, I never had. I worked in college. I worked in a restaurant, while I was going to college, but not much work. College kind of got overwhelming after a while. So I've always been an entrepreneur. as a young person, I shoveled driveways, mowed lawns, painted houses. Then when I was in at the end of my second year of college, I came back and I started a company for the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college. Well, the company did real well. I never went back and finished school. Which is a common entrepreneurial trait, I find a lot of my friends who run their own successful companies they just never finished school. They got kind of impatient, I kind of did a mental assessment. And I said, wait a second, I'm going to school to learn how to make money. That was my goal, was to make money. And I was making a lot of money. I like to say I didn't start a company to get rich. I started a company to get filthy rich.
Now, your father was an entrepreneur, correct? He had a manufacturing business?
He wasn't an entrepreneur, though. My father worked for his father. He was an employee. Entrepreneur, I think, means you've created something from nothing. You started a startup is kind of the definition of an entrepreneur. My dad was a successful businessman and a super nice guy and very generous and all, great guy. And I learned a lot from him. I was not. My grandpa, on the other hand, was an entrepreneur. My grandpa
had an
eighth grade education. He started a company in the 40s and became very successful. He had patents. He was a really interesting guy. He had partnered with Pat Parker from Parker Hannifin. He was, Cleveland was a super dynamic manufacturing spot. It is now still, but it really was back at that 100 years ago. It was a world center for manufacturing.
So you have what I call the entrepreneurial gene. That most likely came from your grandfather. That's really cool.
I think it skips a generation.
Yeah, it probably does.
That's how a lot of those kind of traits.
It probably does. So tell us about Talan Products. What does the company do? And you were one of the founders. Tell us the story about launching the company.
I'm the founder. We're long run, high volume metal stampings up to 600 tons, progressive die specialists. We also fabricate a lot of aluminum extrusions. Mostly we stamp it. We do, we build our own tooling. We have our customer mix is like a high volume, low mix, as opposed to a low mix, high volume, which is kind of typically called a fabricator. We predominantly make building products. We have some specialties in solar. A lot of our solar parts go on buildings. LED lighting. A lot of the lighting goes into buildings. And electric vehicle, which is a new niche we've targeted recently. We've had a history of targeting disruptive industries. A lot of our building products, 35 years ago when we started, we went after the single ply roofing industry, which was a new way to put roofs on buildings, sort of a polymer sheet as opposed to asphalt and paper. Like the old style was more labor intensive, the old way of roofing. Single ply roofing, when we started this company, was 8% of the industry, of the commercial roofing industry. And the industry back then was about $16 billion. Now it's about $35 billion, and our niche, single ply roofing, is 80%. So we grew up with the industry. We targeted a disruptive industry, and we just rode the coattails. We did the same thing with LED lighting. LED lighting didn't exist. I mean, it existed in the labs, but it was not commercialized 10 years ago. So we were some of the early, I don't want to say early adopters. We were early to the party,
Yeah,
And, it went from zero to $100 billion industry in about 7 or 8 years.
And your company, just for size, just to give us a sense, how many employees? How many employees are you?
80 employees and about $50 million. Wow. Which is, those are good numbers for a metal stamper. Typically, metal stamper has sales of about $185,000, $190,000 per employee. We're north of 700,000. Wow. So by that measure, we're an extremely productive company because, like I said, we do high speed, high volume. Our niche is make a lot of parts. We have certain part numbers that we make hundreds of millions of pieces. They come off the press like if you've ever seen a beer bottling line where the beer is flying by so fast you can't even see it. That's the way we manufacture.
So I've done a little bit of research on your company, and you and I had talked prior to this episode. So I know that there's some core values that the company has. There's a lot of years of growth, and I know it hasn't been an easy journey, just like many entrepreneurial stories. But I do want to talk about a few of the core pillars that you mention on your website as part of your story and your history. Yeah. And it certainly starts with people. So I want to start there. One of the things that I saw is your company mantra to treat everyone right. And also, I think you've been on some other podcasts where you talk about your people, and recruiting is so important, especially now in this market where everyone is finding it challenging to find workers. So I thought if we could just chat a bit about your culture, what it means at Talan Products, how you bring the fun, because you've talked about you have a fun company, which is you don't always hear that about a manufacturing company, but it's a fun manufacturing company, and here it is nestled in the middle of Ohio. So tell us about that. Tell us about your company or culture.
Well, we find that we hire for our values, and we also find that when we find customers that share our values, it's usually a mutually successful, long-lasting relationship. Our values, our core values. Now, they used to be. We've always had values. We went through the mission, vision, values thing 25 years ago, and everybody was always kind of a pillar of running a well-run company. But back then, it wasn't. Values were not really lived. People made them. They went through the exercise. They put the values on the wall. They gave out wallet cards. But I don't think people really bought into the whole concept. It was something the consultants said you had to do to be a well-run company, so people did it. Recently, I don't know, it's probably 5 or 10 years ago, we boiled it down to 4 core values. And it's a lot easier to remember 4 values than 13. And it's also, when we looked at the 13 values, a lot of them were redundant, and they're kind of understood. You don't have to put profitability as a value. If you're not profitable, you don't exist. The company will cease to exist. So that was kind of an understood. But we started with safety because in a metal stamping plant, we have big presses, 30,000-pound coils of steel. Accidents can be catastrophic. So you really have to put safety above everything, above productivity and above profitability, and above to be a good company, to be a good person, to sleep at night. You want to put safety number one. But then I look at the next 3 is really the values that are not negotiable, but these are the values that we chose. We feel like safety was understood as number 1. But number 2 is really the one that I could almost call my number 1 value, and that's collaboration. Collaboration works a lot of ways. It doesn't just work with the customer. I mean, in the sales department, all they think about is the customer, collaborating with the customer and being a partner. We like to say we were partnering before partnering was cool. We started the company with that mantra, with that axiom. We wanted to have large customers that we were a very significant supplier to, that we were valued so much that they looked at us as part of the team. We were integral to their operation. So say collaboration, and also collaboration goes to the supplier, because we're the customer in that relationship. So we wanted to be our suppliers to be the kind of supplier that works together with us as a team member. So the employees and the customers and Talon, I think of that as like three legs of the stool of business. The tenacity is the third one. Tenacity kind of speaks for itself. That means we get it done. I mean, if we if we fell into a really hard opportunity that was really difficult, and instead of just quitting, you just keep trying, just keep plugging away, just get it done. We had a very difficult job once many years ago, and we just kept working at it. But the customer even came up to us and said, "Don't you guys ever quit? I mean, aren't you going to eventually just say we can't? This is not formable. We can't make the metal do what we're trying to do." I said, "No, I think we're going to get it." We did. Eventually, we got it. So tenacity is a good trait to have in your workers. And also works like when you're trying to go after a really big plum customer. Having tenacity can get you over the finish line. The last one is interesting. It's respect. Respect means different things to different people. So when we lay out our values, we have the behaviors that support those values also spelled out. Respect means something different to a young urban guy than it does to an older guy, like say he lives in the country. They're just different cultures. So what it basically means is don't be a jerk. It's kind of like the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. And we have other ways to say that, but that's other ways that are more crass, But that's it. Just treat people with respect, and expect respect from your others.
Thank you for sharing those. How did your core values help the company throughout the pandemic?
Well, the safety was interesting. This is clearly an aspect of safety. Our team really rose to the occasion. I personally don't take credit for this. I take credit for being the leader of the company, but they took the ball and ran with it. We had meetings every couple of days. Matter of fact, in the beginning, it was probably every day. We were constantly meeting, because if you recall, the environment was so dynamic and changing so quickly, and the recommendations and the guidelines and the laws, where everything was changing so quickly. And so we took a belt and suspenders approach. Matter of fact, I say sometimes we took a belt and suspenders and another belt. We were really kind of, because it's part of our safety culture. So, and it still is. We still talk about it. I just came from a leadership meeting where COVID is still an item on our agenda. But it paid off. We never had an outbreak. We had colleagues that got sick. We had even had somebody that passed away. But we'd never had an outbreak where when we did the contact tracing, that there was a department that got sick, and everybody that we did the distancing and put up partitions, and we cleanliness, we were cleaning up all the surfaces and just everything. I don't remember all the protocols we did, but it was very comprehensive. If there was a suggestion, we did it, and it worked. It worked.
Were you deemed an essential business?
Yes, we were essential right from the very beginning.
Okay.
We make a lot of parts for the solar industry.
Okay.
Which was another one that was a disruptive one that we got into a long time ago when it was the Wild West. We called it the solar coaster, because it was just the wild days back then. And we grew up with the industry, and we're in all three facets of it: the residential, commercial, and utility scale. And what was I saying about solar?
No, that's okay. It's part of innovation. We're actually going to jump to that in a little bit. Let's come back to talent for a second. Question for you about where we are now with this labor market. It's a pretty tight labor market. How challenging is it to find workers now compared to pre-pandemic?
It's challenging. We, I like to say, I don't say we're a fun company. I like to say we're a cool company, because fun has a different connotation. I wish we were more fun. It is fun. It's fun to succeed, and nothing succeeds like success. So everybody wants to be with a winner. And so we do a pretty good job of recruiting. Matter of fact, I'm the CEO, so I'm not real active in the granular running of the company. I'm kind of the visionary and the overseer and the chief strategist and that kind of stuff. But recently I got on a task force for recruiting and retention, because these are so important, and especially now with the current labor climate. And so I I like marketing, and basically it's a different aspect of marketing. You know, we've been marketing the company, and so now I'm selling it, but selling our services. But now I'm marketing the company as an employer, and so it was a different aspect, different side of the same coin.
Absolutely.
And so it's been interesting, and we're doing okay. We've got we're still looking for people, but we're growing like a weed. So if we're growing quickly, we're always looking for people, and we get a lot of press. We can win a lot of awards. We always are being profiled and whatnot. So that helps draw attention to us also. I mean, it's not just because I suffer from a poor self-image. I don't.
But that does all help, because it does help raise the profile of the company. But I'm curious about this committee. Have you come up with any specific strategies that you're trying out that are new?
We're leaning into social media more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's everything. That's where everything comes from now. I mean, it's no print media anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, so social media is our whole, and then we're trying to do some unique things. Like we're talking about barber shops, in certain urban culture, barber shop is a nexus where everybody goes and hangs out at the barber shop, and they learn and hear about things. They chat all day. It's a nice place to get the word out that, hey, by the way, we're looking for people, and we're a good place to work. We offer a lot of career opportunity. We offer a lot of growth opportunity. The guy who runs our factory started as an entry-level guy 20 years ago. He's like one of the top guys in the company now. We do outreach. We do community outreach to like Hispanic centers and whatnot. We have a re-entry program working with ex-cons. They have other names for them. I can't recall it right now, but working with nonviolent offenders, and we have had some really good success with that. We try everything, and we're one of the things we're doing is trying to invent and come up with other non-traditional methods of getting our name out there and getting just telling our story.
Yeah, it's important to try different things, just like in marketing. You got to test and learn.
Yeah, we said is if we don't try different things, if we do the same thing we've always done, we're going to get the same result we've always gotten.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's jump back to innovation. You talked about that as a core pillar, and the industries that you target. You target disruptive industries, which is a really interesting strategy. I had another guest on the show. Her name is Karen Norheim. She's the president of American Crane. And what they talked about in terms of innovation is they set up a technology group to kind of have an R&D aspect to what they do. And so when you think about innovation, and one of the things on your website I noticed is you said, look beyond yourself to embrace new technologies, which is why I mentioned this other manufacturing company that says, yeah, we're going to do the same thing. How does Talan Products do that? Maybe some examples could you share?
35 years ago, the way that the material was fed into a punch press was like with a couple of different mechanical systems, like air feeds and geared feeds. And there was this new thing called a servo feed, which was really technologically advanced at that time. 35 years ago, they didn't exist. We were one of the earliest adopters. Matter of fact, our servo had a 3-digit serial number on it, meaning they'd made less than 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
And it was that nowadays they dominate the industry. That's standard. I mean, everything is servo feed. Just kind of like the digital revolution. What a servo does, it digitizes the movement, and so you can use a computer to control mechanical movement in your press. And now there's presses that are servo presses now, not just accessories to feed the stock. But that was an example of a long time ago. Another example was there was a kind of part we were making, and my partner at the time was a really innovative guy, and he goes, "Look, I figured out a way to make 2 at once. So this is the kind of part that you would typically make 1 at a time." He said, "I figured out a way. I think we can make 2 at once." So I, just being naive and not a manufacturer at the time, I said, "That's good. Why don't we make 3?" And he goes, "You know what? Maybe we could. I never thought of that." And it sounds like a stupid, silly way to example, but it's true. And we, but it was trickier. Doing 3 was a lot. Doing 3 was a lot trickier than making 3 at a time was a lot trickier than making 2 at a time. And now it just seems natural, you know, I mean, when we a lot of our processes lend themselves to multiple parts being made at one time. We have a lot of presses that make 4 parts per hit. Every time the press goes up and down, it makes 4 parts.
So there's process innovation, there's innovation in the customers that you serve, which means you probably need to do kind of this market scanning, right? And understanding what their needs are, what problems they're trying to solve, which is complex. It's not an easy thing to do. How do you get to know these different industries because they're changing so fast?
Yeah, well, we keep our eye out for innovative, disruptive industries. Yeah, single ply was a good example. It was one that just grew from almost nothing 10 or 20 years ago to like a huge industry now. We looked at the wind power industry, you know, renewable. We do a lot with renewables. I mean, the LED they're super energy efficient. We just try to be cutting edge. Try to be keep your eyes and ears open. A lot of what we also offer is design for manufacturability assistance. It might be a mundane existing part, but we look at a way to make it faster, cheaper, less costly, make it stronger. And sometimes parts are over designed where they designed it so it's perfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to be good enough, you know. And you can make little changes that don't affect the functionality of it, but lower the cost of manufacturing. That's kind of, I mean, manufacturing, that's kind of a holy grail. Is make a better part for less money. That's the basic, you know, premise.
Yeah, is that the company's superpower? If we talk about it that way, that it's got high quality production at a lower production.
I think our design for manufacturability assistance is what attracts a lot of our good customers. But not everybody's looking for that. Some customers are looking for that. Some are not. Some customers come to us and they say, I want you to make what's between the 4 corners of the blueprint. I mean, we've already optimized it. We know what we want. And we just have to, but there's a lot of younger, smaller startup and even big companies. A lot of times they are very open to suggestions for optimizing. That's, I wouldn't say it's part of our secret sauce. It's one of our options. Another thing we like to do is have early supplier involvement. If we get in the beginning of a project, we can, it ends up being more successful for both, you know.
I want to come back to your superpower because you're the founder. You've created a very successful company over the last, almost 40 years. 35, which is no small feat. So I want to congratulate you and your team for that. I want to talk about your superpower because you're a gregarious guy. You make it the work environment probably a special place. What do you think that has been some of your keys to your success over the years as a leader?
I think being passionate is kind of a big, I'm sure that's a big part of my success. I'm always thinking about it. My first partner used to call it, he said, we're obsessed possessed, you know, and you can't succeed in business without being obsessed possessed. Now you can succeed, but I think somebody somewhere, like, you know, the visionary, hopefully the leader, should really be all in, you know. I mean, really, I don't think it's, you know, I don't think you can really thrive as a company and really be a high growth company and be, you know, at the top of your game unless you're really throwing, you know, giving the airplane all the gas to get off. We used to say when you're taking off an airplane, you have to have full throttle. And you can't pull back your throttle till you get up to altitude. When you get up to altitude, there's only one way to coast. That's downhill. So you gotta, you know, we always also used to say, building that first layer of the pyramid, man, it takes a long time.
Yeah,
and the second layer is not so bad, but it's still pretty big, you know, so it takes a long time. It's not till many, many years later that you're up near the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, and you're sort of enjoying that now, and it's easier to look back and say some things that worked for you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm guessing has worked for you has been your attention to the numbers. Even just as we've been talking in prep for this show, you know, I could tell that you are someone who studies the market. You understand your industry very well. You understand where you compare to your peers. And you measure things, right? As a company, it's important, especially when you're measuring things like safety and quality. So I want to talk to you about that, what we call KPIs or, you know, key performance indicators. Another thing I saw on your website, it says, if it doesn't add value for the company, don't do it. So I want to ask you about this. What measures do you track for the business and that you think have really been part of your success over these years?
I mean, there's so many. It's funny. We probably have. I mean, just in the sales and marketing department, we have 25 things we measure every week. So I mean, there's so many metrics. But when manufacturing, there's kind of a mantra that says, "What gets measured gets improved." I mean, it's not just manufacturing; it's in business. But so yeah, I also have a saying about that. I said, we have a lot of data, but discerning knowledge from the data is hard. I mean, tracking all this data is only the first step. You have to understand what it means and convert the data into knowledge. That's where it gets tricky. On-time delivery, quality, safety, turnover. These are the kind of metrics that are kind of basic to manufacturing, all of which we excel at. We're in the top. I mean, we benchmark against the industry, through our manufacturing association. So we see the numbers, and we're rock stars. I mean, we really do have a high performing company.
What about enterprise value? Have you measured what the company is worth, gotten official valuations, or, kind of looked at it I think you and I sort of met in this M&A mergers and acquisitions event that was online, and I had reached out to you afterwards. And so I know you spend time in those circles. Tell me about that.
I look at that as kind of the ultimate scorecard. So I am always aware of our market value of the company, of the enterprise value of the company, because that's the ultimate scorecard. I mean, I'm not selling the company right now, but we want the company to be profitable, which is, of course, one of the main metrics. I mean, people buy companies for future cash flow. That's basically the concept. You're buying the cash flow of the company. But it's not just cash flow that makes a company valuable. It's culture. There's a lot of intangibles. It's the market served. There's so many other intangibles that go into it, other components. Is the owner necessary? Does the owner have to be there? Is he intrinsic to the success of the company, or does the company run itself, and a new owner could come in and step right in and maybe even, and also what's left? What's the next big thing that the new guy can do? There's so many aspects of it. But I think that's kind of like the ultimate KPI is your network, is your enterprise value.
Yeah, I mean, for you and your the other, there's one other owner, is that correct?
Yes.
Your business partner, and so by far, it's probably the largest asset you both have.
It is.
Yes,
it is. And here's a good thing about growing older. When I was young, it was 90% of my net worth. But as I get older, it becomes less, because we're profitable. We make money every year, and I invest that. I diversify my investments. I have a diversified portfolio, right? And so it's funny. My financial advisor, we talk about that, like how much of your net worth is still in Talon. But
that's important for diversification. Yeah, a lot of business owners, this is sort of where they start, which is the financial planning side and understanding what is it that they need for the future when they retire, what that lifestyle they want to have. Do they want to travel? Do they want to buy another company or start another business? And then that sense of, well, where is the company today? What's it worth? And then is there a gap? And all those factors that you just talked about, which are the things that help determine, well, what is the value? How does it compare against your peers? And ultimately, value is in the eye of the acquirer, right? It's in the eye of the other buyer. But you're right, 100%. That it's important to be looking at that. Go ahead.
There's also an element of multiples. I mean, now there's the market for M&A is so frothy. It's white hot. I mean, there's too much money chasing too few of opportunities. Combined with the demographics of the baby boomers, guys my age, I'm the peak of the baby boom bubble going through. I'm the rabbit going through the snake's belly demographically,
Yeah.
And I'm getting to an age where you're looking at that stuff. So the multiples of the multiple of EBITDA, which is a way to value companies. The multiples are climbing. I mean, for the funds have so much money that's they have dry powder. They got to use it or lose it. There's a lot of demand. It's more demand than supply of companies now. So when I use EV as a metric or a KPI, I have to kind of remove that variable because we don't get credit for companies selling for higher multiples. I mean, that's not something we did. That's what society has provided us. So now's a good time to sell for that reason.
Well, also there's a lot of discussion around other alternatives such as ESOPs for companies that are large enough to try to garner the tax benefit. So it is a very interesting time, as you say. There's a lot of dynamics and there's a lot of activity. So I want to talk about succession for a second. Do you have a succession plan in place? Whether it's call it the contingency, more of an emergency, that's different. This is more kind of long-term,
Yeah. We're working on it.
Yeah.
it needs work. We, I mean, all entrepreneurs leave their companies someday.
That's right.
Some horizontally, some vertically. I used to think more like I'll be here till I drop dead at my desk. I probably, as that possibility is arriving now as I get older, I think maybe I will go for a third life, a third stage in life. Your first stage, you're a student. Second stage, you're a producer. Third stage, you're whatever you do,
That's right.
In society. The Hindus have a fourth stage where you're ready to die, and you're preparing for death. But I'm looking at it as 3 stages. We don't have, we're working on our succession plans. It's something I've been working, we have a formal succession plan. I mean, it's a big package, it's like professionally produced and it looks really good. We identify all the people in the company by A, B, C, D, and then we have planned and unplanned actions that we'll do, if the guy or girl came to an untimely demise, what do we do short term while we're looking for the permanent replacement? So we do have a plan, but that's not the question. You were asking more about selling the company, I think.
Oh, not necessarily. No, I think succession, it's really important to have a written succession plan in terms of your people. And you can answer that question however you see the answer. I think succession, transition, change, having a plan of some sort is better than having no plan. And it's great that you've looked at it from the talent. The talent plan is really, really important. And I'm glad to hear you've done that.
In my head, I kick around a lot of ideas, I mean, we're growing and the numbers are getting pretty big. And we're going to do about 75 million next year. And so there's options to take some money off the table and continue. I mean, it's hard to imagine somebody not wanting me to stay in the company, maybe as a minority partner or smaller. I mean, now I own 65%. So I could still sell a lot and still stay at the company and still have a job and still participate, what they call 2 bites of the apple. I'm sure you know that expression.
Yeah. Well, it's also, as you said, it's about what you want, right? So this exploration for your, as you call it, the 3rd chapter. So you're this adventurer, right? What's next? What's your next adventure look like? And you want to frame and how you want to spend your time. So it might be putting the feet up on the desk and more of an advisor, type of role as opposed to the day-to-day. It could be, hey, you want to be a unicycler and go back to ballooning and things, fun adventure things too.
And I do all these fun things and I don't want to do them all day, every day, full time. My dad, when he retired, he thought blackjack, bridge, poker, golf, and bowling could fill his time. That would fill his day. He was going to be a professional at all those. He was very good, very accomplished at all those. But it didn't fill his day. And I could tell that he was not fulfilled. I spend a lot of psychic energy thinking about that. I'm not a workaholic, even though I'm passionate, driven, and obsessed, possessed about the company. I'm not a workaholic. I'm able to, I've got a great team. The team does all the work, I kind of oversee some of it, and a lot of it, I don't even have to oversee it. I don't have a good answer for that other than I like my job. I really do like my job. It's not, some people can't wait to retire because they hate their work. It's digging a ditch. It's like, they just want to get out of the coal mine and go sit on the beach. I get to the beach plenty. So I don't have a good answer about, when it's time.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think a lot of people don't.
I'm reading a lot of books on it.
Yeah, that's good. Is there a book that you like that you would like to recommend?
I just finished a good one called Changing Gear.
Okay.
And I don't have
Changing Gear.
Changing Gear. It was very good. It was very good.
That's awesome.
And I've had 2 or 3 others recommended to me. One, the guy references a lot of Drucker in it, a lot of Peter Drucker. And the foreword was by Jim Collins from Good to Great. I'm sure you're familiar with Jim Collins.
Yeah.
I'm just always trying to educate myself and it doesn't mean it's imminent, but I'm trying to learn more about this 3rd chapter. And up till now, it's always been, I'm never going to stop. I'm going to work, and I'm sure guys like that they will work literally till they drop dead at their desk. That's not my goal either,
Yeah.
So I'm still just starting to articulate my vision.
Well, maybe when you are in your 3rd chapter, we'll have you come back on the show and we'll we'll reflect on those changes and that path that you ended up taking. So I realize now it's too early for that, but that's okay.
Yeah. But it's good to always be learning, and always be educating yourself. And so people might mistake my studying this for wanting to sell the company, because why else would you be talking to investment bankers? Well, I want to learn about it. It's going to be the biggest sale of my life someday when I do sell this thing.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean it's imminent. It just means I'm trying to educate myself.
Yeah, that's super important. That's also, I've had conversations with a number of people who say the same thing, that why wouldn't they study? Why wouldn't they talk to advisors to help get ready and get their, not only the understanding of what creates enterprise value when you're in that mode of building the business, right? But then when you're in that mode that you're in now, which is exploring options and thinking it through and trying to assemble the right team of trusted advisors, it's super important.
Very much. Yeah.
Super important. So last couple of questions for you. I love to ask everyone if they have a favorite quote about entrepreneurship or leadership, and I'm guessing you have something up your sleeve.
I have a million of them, but one I'd like to say is nothing succeeds like success. And Mom always said that when we were young. It didn't matter what you do, be the best at it. And you can break it down into numerous meanings, but everybody wants to be with a winner. Everybody wants a winner as a supplier. Everybody wants a winner as their customer. Everybody wants a winner as their company they work at. Everybody wants to be allied with success. Success is contagious. It's
Absolutely.
like emotions. Emotions are contagious. If you go into a meeting and you're happy and positive and optimistic, you have better outcomes. People react better to positivity than negativity. If you go into a meeting and you suck the life out of the room and everything's doom and gloom, you're gonna have a self-fulfilling prophecy. So nothing succeeds like success. If I had to have one statement, I've got a million.
That's a great one. No, that's a great one. And if people want to connect with you or talk with you one-on-one, what's a good way to find you online?
Sales@talonproducts.com comes to me. It comes to my team. But if they want to talk to me personally, I think it's just Peplin@talonproducts.com.
Okay, great. And also maybe on LinkedIn, reaching out.
Oh, LinkedIn is a good way. Yeah, that's probably a better way. Yeah.
Getting to you directly there. Okay, perfect. Steve, we covered so much today. Thank you so much for being so authentic and talking about where you are in your journey and sharing some of the successes with your business, and also thinking about what's next and this next journey for yourself.
Thanks, Laurie. It was really fun. I really appreciate the opportunity.